All right, Sunday night, folks. I'm in Orlando, Florida. So Sunday night prep work as we move into the week. I just finished speaking, really on behalf of Success School. And man, I lit into those people, Craig. I lit into those people. And some of them responded. Some of them rose up, and some of them I scared to death.
What was the topic tonight?
Flip the switch.
And
I don't know if everybody understands this. We got a serious problem in education. And there was a guy from Cambridge who spoke after me that showed these numbers. Because tonight we're going to talk about don't let old confidence turn into new ignorance. How do you consistently never let your past? Here's the stats that the guy from Cambridge said after I spoke. Right now in our country, we've had the lowest ACT scores in 30 years, lowest SAT scores in 10 years, worst math score results. 8% of students met college benchmarks in math, science, English, or reading. Many students no longer see the value of even graduating. Many students don't think curriculum is relevant to their success. Many students don't see the value of attending class. This is all based on studies. And what it is, so I'm speaking to teachers and mentors, and this program is set up to mentor people. And when I got finished, I said, man, people don't buy into the message until they buy into the messenger. If the coach is not enthusiastic, the student is sure as hell not going to be enthusiastic. And so there's a concept, there's a theme of a couple conversations I've had this weekend, Craig, where people have alluded to their past and their past successes, and so they've been closed off to adversity. They've been closed off to growth. They've been closed off to getting better. They've been closed off to getting any feedback from somebody who is operating at a higher level than them. The one thing drives me crazy, it's when somebody doesn't take feedback from somebody who's actually performing at a higher level in an area of life than them. So why do you think old confidence turns into new ignorance?
At the end of the day, we talk about this, and this is the common theme with me and my coaching, is that just the cognitive bias, right? Like we don't address what is it that we think that we know. And, I've kind of, had some different mental constructs that I've been coming up with, but essentially it's the way you see yourself. The story that you tell about yourself is literally the vision that you see the world through. And so, if you've grown up with some past education or some past experiences that maybe led you to believe you're something more than you are today, or the opposite, gave you a history that you're not good enough, then you're going to carry that with you until today. And that's the vision that you see the world through. So, I really think that, people have to wake up, and as you say, it all goes to zero at midnight. And you have to look at every day, this is today, God's granted me this gift. What may I do with it? And not really look back. Obviously, it's good to have education and know that, we have a framework and structure to go and do business with, but we do have to think more in the present and be more receptive to basically listening versus just expecting to spew onto people. I found myself many times in a conversation where I'm just like, am I really seeing it this way, or is there something that's just not there? So when you're asking about ignorance from the past, it's really just, I believe, just that cognitive bias piece. People don't address it, and they just believe what the story that they tell about themselves is the way it is.
Well, we're doing a course tomorrow in Monster Producer with our students on expansion. And we hear people say, I want to level up, right? I want to level up. But leveling up requires you fighting off the inertia, the apathy in your life, the lethargy in your life. It leveling up requires letting go of something that has held you back for a long time.
Right.
It implies gaining new knowledge, new skill. Because as I've been out here on the tour promoting this new book, flip the switch is about finding another gear and having a desire to find another gear versus just throw in the towel. That's why I made that post earlier, that laziness is really just an indicator that you've given up. When you don't want to look good anymore, when you don't want to look like somebody, when you don't want to act like somebody, when you don't want to show up, when you don't want to do anything that's inconvenient, when you don't want to, right? What you're really doing is you have this attitude. See, a plane has in the cockpit what's called an attitude indicator. And that attitude indicator is a very important instrument in the cockpit that tells the pilot if the plane is climbing, static, or descending. And so I asked
attitude or altitude.
It's attitude indicator. It's called attitude indicator. And I asked my pilot one day, what do you want to know? And he said, it always needs to be nose up. You don't ever want that thing to be nose down. You don't ever want an attitude going down. You always want to be climbing. You're at your position or you're landing. He said, you don't want it going in the opposite direction. Well, most people's attitudes are going in the wrong freaking direction. And here's what I want to talk to you about tonight, guys. The attitude toward growth and learning and expansion. And, you know, tonight when I was speaking, I could just look at some people and I could say, that one's got a bad attitude and that one ain't interested in growing. And this one's totally disinterested. Some of the people up at the front, you know, they just looked at me like I was from another planet. And I started thinking, man, if these are the teachers, these are the people who are in charge of the students, right, and they got bad attitudes. Now, not everybody did. Some of them had great attitudes. Some of them came up to me afterwards and said, I want to do something. Somebody said, I'm looking at her numbers. See, there's going to be some people get off here tonight because they got a bad attitude and they're going to get pissed off at me. They're not going to get pissed off at themselves, which is who they should get pissed off at. So as a coach, I created a tension in people. And I didn't care if the student liked it or didn't like it. It was a tension to help the student fight through their ceilings to get to another place. Many times they didn't like it. So let's talk about that. So when somebody says, if somebody says to you, man, you got a bad attitude. You used to be good at something. Now you got an arrogance. You don't have you've let your old confidence turn into new arrogance. What do you think most people would say in today's world?
I mean, their typical response, I'm not sure if you're looking for like a confrontational part or for me to dissect it, but I mean, generally speaking, most people think that they're, and I'm generalizing at this point, but you know, most people think that they are, you know, doing well and that they're qualified. But yet, you know, you could see that they lost the students. They feel like social media and these other things have taken a hold of like the new world. You could ask people what they want to be and they're going to say YouTubers. That's like the number one thing people want to be today is YouTubers. Well, why is that? Did we allow the school system and education to fail because we didn't teach people properly, or we didn't you know, so like, I guess the question is, where do you take the responsibility? You know, do you pass the buck and say it's a political issue and that we let, you know, technology and everything you know, grow out of hand? Or do we say it starts actually in the school system where they're actually in that, you know, parameters from kindergarten through, you know, high school, and then if they go on to some continuing education. But I mean, that's an indoctrination period for these teachers to do something good in their lives and show them and infiltrate the student and say, I'm going to take you and make you something better. But do you think that's the attitude for all of them? I would hope that people go into it for the right reasons, but you know, we've seen nightmare stories over the last few years now with everything going on of people pushing an indoctrination of whatever it is they believe, as opposed to just aiming at the students. I had a talk today with one of my my GMs at the gym, and I said, man, if we could just focus on pouring into our members and make them have a transformation and just give them the best experience in the gym, the sales are going to come. You know what I mean? If we just do the right thing by saying, you know what, we're going to do the best that we can for you when you're in here, by loving on you, by giving you the nutrition and the training that you need, by just doing everything possible to make that experience so wonderful, then the rest is going to take care of itself. But yet that doesn't happen because people go in with their own bias, their own wants into it, and they just feel like they have to push that. So, you know, I think the game is the wrong way. People are looking at themselves and saying, I'm going to give this to the world, versus saying, if I'm pouring into somebody, you as a coach, I'm a coach. If we focused on the learner, the person who's you know, getting in something from us and saying, our job is to make them have a transformation of some sort. We would all be doing better as opposed to letting our own preconceived abilities, notions, etc., dictate what we want to give.
Well, when you think about this, I had a course when I was working on my doctorate in assumption bias and prejudgment. And that is where you bring assumption bias and prejudgment to every scenario. And what I'm assuming here is that people have a desire to level up. But just because they have that desire to level up does not mean they're willing to let go of their old notions, right? I could have a desire to level up, but not want to take the actions it takes to level up, because there's going to be a cost to that.
Yeah.
And that's the cost of change. So I was doing an interview last week, and a great interview. And the woman said, how does a person change? I said, well, change is a function of, as if it's a math formula, pain. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That activates my prey drive. Potential. I can see myself being better, and I do want to level up. And practicality, which means I can see myself doing it. And I said, but there is a cost to that change. And when I was telling my story today of coming from a small town and going out in the world and trying to do something big, there's obviously people who are doing bigger things than me, but I'm out there trying to do big things. And I said, what caused that decision in me to try to rise up versus take the other path, which is give up. So I think that'd be a great book title, Rise Up or Give Up. And a lot of people just give up and go, that's it, man. That's as good as it's going to get, right? Never going to have a better life. It has a lot to do with fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets. The earlier you can instill this in your kids of having a growth mindset that's open, getting them around people who, and I was using this example, Ella Grace played soccer. And she had a guy who was a college soccer player. He was a terrible coach. He didn't talk to the kids. He didn't have any enthusiasm. He had terrible communication skills. And she would come home at night and say, Dad, I don't want to play soccer. Then I took her to basketball. Coach Andy Herzer, enthusiastic, prays over the kids, speaks to them, makes them look at him in the eye. She came home and said, Dad, I want to play basketball. All because of the coach. The coach and right. So let's speak to that concept of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Part of prey drive is I have a desire, something's flickering in me. I got a desire for a bigger future. This is the only way I've ever known, really, in my life. So it's hard for me to really understand why a person has a fixed mindset. But how could you help a person who has a fixed mindset?
Well, you just said it. I don't even have the ability to relate to that, right? So like it's so, I don't know. I have conversations. My wife is a very different person. I don't want to push her in any category, but we just see the world in two different ways as far as like when something negative happens to me, and I've heard you say this as well. It turns into being a energy boost to me. It turns into being something that, especially when it's someone who did that to me, or beat me in something, it gives me the courage, the energy, the determination, the grit, the resilience, all of it. Like it enrages me and it lights my fire. I think complacency and sitting still make us tired, make us like, if we're not being pushed, if we're not, going after something, we're not at our best. And I just don't see how people can just sit back and just like take the easy path. So I don't relate well to that. And I usually gravitate towards those people, or they'll gravitate towards me because I'm very outspoken. And, the people that don't want to hear me aren't going to want it. And they're not going to be around me and they're going to go to their own way. Right. So how do we get through to those people? Go ahead.
Well, this is the point. This is the point. This is what I was telling Kelly tonight. I'm going to push these people hard. And the more they resisted, the harder I pushed. And then I had some moments of connection to certain audience members. But I told her what we're really trying to do here. This is a great sales lesson for every person to understand. We're really trying to separate out people who are not serious from people who are serious. Yeah. And if I got to push a little bit harder to weed out the people who are never going to do anything, let's just go ahead and do it within the first 30 minutes or 45 minutes. See, my standard MO is when someone's not responding to me and when I'm speaking, like tonight was a little bit tough, I push harder. And what I'm really doing there is going, okay, it's time to separate out the amateurs from the pros. And the harder I push, the more the pros step up and go, I'm in. And so what I did is I finished speaking, and certain people came to me and said, you know what, that was incredible. I need to do something with you. And other people wouldn't look at me. They literally wouldn't even make eye contact with me, which tells me, so in 1 hour, this is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. It was a good presentation or a bad presentation. It was, I brought my belief system. The people who believe the same things I do step toward me. The people who don't move away from me, we have separated out. We don't need to call them. We don't need to check on them. We don't need to follow up with them.
Right.
And remember this, guys, watching this tonight. You're only looking for people that are looking for you. When you got to convince, when you got to supplicate, when you got to chase, when you got to beg, you need to stop and you need to go, you know what? I need to go find people who are hungry. Yeah. And they show up with batteries included.
Vince was in our group this week talking to our coaches, and you know, he mentioned being so specific. And I remember the framework that he uses when you put in your bio and you're a coach and or anyone. So anyone who's listening to this right now, if you get people on social media or you use marketing, identify your avatar, tell them exactly what you do and make it very specific. You know, what do you say? The riches are in the niches, right? So I help, if it's a male, it's a female, I help men do X, Y, and Z. Let's just say fitness. I help men get in shape who are 30, blah, blah, blah. Like the deeper you can go into that vertical, you're going to attract the people that need your services, and you're going to repel the people that don't. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to be better for it. You're going to be talking to people that want to listen to your message, and you're going to be connecting more, and you're going to be in that zone of genius versus fighting off the negative feelings. So you don't need that. You want to be around people that want to be around you, and your attraction will attract those people. And, you know, I guess if we're going to circle back to the school system, yeah, there's kids that are there just because, right? They're there because that's what you do. You go to school and you do this thing. So I guess the question now is, how can we now encompass a group of people, or how can we pour into the teachers in such a way that they could be inclusive to all? You know, and that's a challenge. I don't think we have the answer in a 30-minute talk here, but you know, that's a challenge that they need to be thinking about, and how can they do better at, and are they self-educating, etc.
The teacher needs to ask themselves, are they open to learning and growth? Do they want to level up? You know, I was taught, I had a professor in college who was voted the National Teacher of the Year. And he was prepared, he was engaging, he was connected, you wanted to do good for him. Like, that's why he was voted the National Teacher of the Year. It's like the dude showed up and took himself serious. So I want everybody who's watching this tonight to remember, attitude, the best definition of attitude is a posture of the body. And it is typically represented by a physical state. Okay. There are companies that have bad attitudes. There are, I went and ate dinner the other night, Craig, at a restaurant, and I saw the people behind the counter get in 2 fights with the customers, and were cussing and yelling and in front of all the customers. And before I left, I just walked up to this young man who was behind the counter, and I said, look, man, you got a good disposition. You got a good look about you. Why would you engage with that behavior in front of other patrons? Like, I would be appalled if my employees did that in front of customers.
All right.
So that showed me they lack leadership, number 1. They lack standards, number 2. Okay. And it's apparently part of the norm and mores of how they respond, because they just did it 2 or 3 times in less than 30 minutes when I was eating there. Like, I had never seen anything like that. Like, right. Like literally get in a cussing match with patrons in front of a whole restaurant of people. And I'm like, man, there's no standards around here. Now, what's the likelihood I'd ever, here's the problem. Food was good. What's the likelihood I would go back and participate in that? What's the likelihood you're going to go back to somewhere where people are disengaged? So remember this, like gravitate toward like. Association breeds assimilation. The people who want to level up are constantly going to gravitate toward other people who are leveling up. And they're going to make they're going to make an assessment of you, whether you like it or don't like it. Right. And they're going to make that assessment of you based on the posture of your body. And they're going to go, look, I don't want a piece of that. bad attitudes, laziness. I ain't playing over there. They can complain and whine. But to your point, I just think that sometimes we allow people to have low standards, and we allow people to show up with bad attitudes, and we tolerate it. And I think that is, when I was a coach, I didn't tolerate a bad attitude. If you walked in the locker room with a bad attitude, I would say turn around and walk back out the door and come back in the way you're supposed to walk into a room. I mean, that's how hardcore I was as a coach. And I almost think that's the way we got to get back to, Craig. If we want to restore America and values and standards, I could take you to 10 other countries, Craig, where there's not a piece of bubble gum on the road. There's not a piece of trash that is spotless because of their standards compared to, I could go somewhere in America and people are too lazy to put toilet paper in the thing, or they wash their hands and it's all over the floor. I mean, it's just ridiculous, man.
I'll tell you my thoughts around it, and I think it's competitiveness, right? At the end of the day, if you look at, like, even our own organization, you and I had conversations where you were putting on me to kind of do some operations and kind of watch the team and get people to do things at certain times, and we talked about discipline. Like, what are we supposed to do with discipline when you're actually under manned, right? So I think it's a matter of competition. I think competition breeds energy and breeds your best. But I think without competition, we get lazy and we get back into our zone. And so I think that's possibly what's going on in the school system. I don't think there's competition there. I think there's, people just get set, just like a politician who has a 10-year term. They just get put into that spot and they don't do well anymore. So I think competition, the old sports analogy right there, is the thing that's going to breed someone to actually level up and get better, is because they have the chance to lose something by scarcity. You talk about mental subtraction. And I think without that, we're by nature to be in our homeostasis, which is not moving forward and just basically blah. So there's very few of us that are always in a sense of competing for a job, competing to do more. And that takes a certain amount of anxiety or stress in someone's life, and distance from a family and distance from social life. But it's priorities. And if you have priorities, you at least are going after something. Balance is something I don't believe in. I talk about that. I believe in harmony, things up, things down, but you got to be pushing towards something. Balance is bullshit.
Well, a lot of what we talk about in the new book is coming out on Tuesday. I got a copy here, Flip the Switch. Okay, if you could see that, Flip the Switch. I am interested in leveling people up. It's what my whole life's been about. I've built championship programs. I've built championship people. I want to work with people who have a desire to be a champion in their life, which comes with incredibly high standards. And we don't lower those standards. Identity, standards, language, accountability. That's what all the great cultures have. Where there's no consequence, there's no change of behavior. And if your own consequence of performing poorly does it make you want to change your behavior? Okay, and somebody else says something to you and you get offended by it, then you're probably not a good fit for what I'm trying to do. I mean, lazy people are not going to buy Flip the Switch unless they are sick and tired of getting the results that they have been getting. And that pain is greater than that $26 cost to purchase the book. Okay, so if you're out there and you're watching, we're in the home stretch of this book. The book's coming out Tuesday. We'll be shipping out thousands of copies of this book from Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and Books of Me on Tuesday of this week. So the publisher's telling me, or at least they told us last week, that they had enough copies for the first week orders. Is that right, Craig?
That's right. Yeah.
And they're trying to ship more copies in. We're in a, I know we've asked you to purchase a book to help us with the bestseller campaign, but the more I've got into this book, I mean, whether you want to help me or not with the bestseller campaign, it's okay. Some people really want to help me, some people don't, and that's okay. But the book, I've been reading the book, and Daniel Hodges sent me a message tonight. He said, "Man, I've read pretty much all of your books," and he said this book is significantly better than your other books. I could tell you took more time. I could tell you went deeper into the concept. I could tell you're more of an expert in this area. He said, "Man, it's obvious to me that this is your best work." And truth is, when you spend 2 years on something, it is significantly better. It's not a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not a little bit better, but it is significantly better. So I see some comments on here that if they're saying it's coming in the 14th, hang in there with it. Amazon fluctuates daily. We've had some people say it's going to come in the end of February. Then the next day they get an email that says it's coming in tomorrow or coming in next week. So we will start the book club. Not Your Mama's Book Club, second week of February. If you buy the book, you're going to get 8 weeks of coaching with me every Wednesday at 12:30. I'll be in Miami, Florida. This week, we'll do one more session of Pray Drive for Lunch, I think. Okay, I'm going to post a link here if you're out there where you can order the book. If you're out there watching us, then make sure you let us know that you purchased the book.
Yes. I was going to say that. I was going to say that right there. Let me jump in real quick for you. Make sure if you guys went through the funnel, or if you went to just Amazon and didn't come back through our funnel, get in touch with us to let us know. Shoot us a receipt that you have it, because the book club's going to start on February the 8th, and we want you guys to have it in your hands. So if there's ever a delay, we don't think there's going to be right now, based on the estimation of orders that are actually out and the supplies that we know to be true. I think there's just some technicalities in the back end, so we believe those shipments should go out. But we'll see. That's actually a good thing for us if we sell out, right? And we appreciate your patience. But in the event that happens, we'll get you the PDF, right? We mentioned if you went through our funnel, there would be a digital copy for you. So there's things that we want to do for you, and we'll make sure that you're never delayed and you can start with us and read along. It's Not Your Mama's Book Club. We're going to be going with him right through it. And, how many times do you get a chance to have the author, just kind of outline what his thought process was, what is the academic approach that he took to getting there, and then the actual real life application and doing it with us. So absolutely, if you bought this book, get in touch with us. Support at coachburt.com. If you got those orders, just basically make sure you get there. And some of you probably haven't received a lot of communication, because we were kind of just waiting for this book to come out where we're going to dump. But if you're on the launch team, if you're ready to get out there, I will let you know what we're going to be doing. Start leaving your reviews on Tuesday. If you bought this book somewhere and you already started reading it, or you just want to give encouragement, or say you love Coach Burt from the past, or whatever it is, don't leave those early. Make sure that you're signed in on whatever service that you bought that book, and leave the reviews on that place that you bought it, so you could be a verified purchaser after the launch. That's the 31st. So after the 31st, you're welcome to start leaving reviews or testimonies wherever you do it, but don't do it beforehand, because it just looks weird.
Yeah, and I'd finish with this. Your goal in life is not always to, I didn't go in there tonight to be liked. And I think I made a post on this. I'm a coach. I'm coaching people to maximize their performance. And you're not always going to like what the coach has to say. No different than I didn't like a lot of my coaches. I connected to one of my former coaches the other day because he called me for some offensive plays, Alan Bush. And I remember playing for him as a senior, and he's a defensive minded dude. He wasn't, we didn't focus a lot on offense. It was all defense. And I hated it, Craig, when I played. I didn't hate him. I just hated it. But here's what I figured out. We were so deficient in our defensive skills that we needed extra work. And so what he did is he said, look, we're never going to win any games if we don't know how to play defense, man-to-man defense. And he was right. We were deficient. And because of that deficiencies, we needed to be woken up. Now, you don't like it when you get it, but sometimes it's like, man, I needed to be smacked upside the head a little bit. I needed for somebody to create attention in my life. So if you're out there, this is launch week for us. We pushed hard. We pushed real hard. I'm in Orlando promoting the book right now. I'll be in Miami, Florida, speaking to 12,000 people this coming week. It's going to be a big week for us. We're trying to get this thing across the finish line. And we appreciate everybody who's helped us, supported us, believed in us, bought multiple copies. And man, we're excited about this. So Daniel Hodges, I was talking about you before you came on, and what you said about the book being significantly better. And I 100% agree. But it is a book that is going to activate something inside you. It's going to create attention. And maybe that's what you need to level up. We've heard what got you here won't get you there, man.
Right.
Significant breakthroughs don't happen unless you break with something in your past. So this is Sunday Night Prep. Go back and watch it. We will send it to YouTube. Thank you for everything. We believe everybody needs a coach in life. Big week. Get your copy of the book. Get in the 8-week Not Your Mama's Book Club. We threw in tactical connection. We threw in 4-hour masterclass and me breaking the book down. Man, I'm giving away the farm here to get you guys to take an action on this. So thank you, Diva. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. I owe you. Love you guys. Happy Sunday night.